Put a different speaker in every week, a different subject. We require our speaker to take a position on an issue or express a point of view. I hope you can hear me in the back of the room.
Would you start over?
Shall I start over? All right. Welcome to the College of Complexes. This is our 299th meeting since we started, which was in February of 2009. We put a different speaker in every week, a different subject. We require our speaker to take a position on an issue or express a point of view that had to be for or against something. I don't care what it is. We require our speaker to take this position. Then we have questions and answers from the audience, not speeches. And then we have remarks, rebuttals. Everybody in this audience that wants to gets 5 minutes at this podium to respond to what the speaker said for or against. The speaker gets the last word, gets a comment, and close the meeting. That's how it works. We don't pay our speakers to give them a free dinner or compliments and charge everybody else $3. We don't make it even a lot of fun. Anyway, before we put our speaker on, it's time for announcements. So if anybody has announcements, now's the time to get out of your head. Have announcements. Any announcements? Anybody want to make an announcement? Now's the time. Someone here told me they wanted to come on up here. They want to make an announcement. Go ahead.
Well, it is so nice to see this is the biggest turnout I can remember. I think everybody. I hope everybody's feathers are all smoothed down as from the last fall. Anyway, I don't really have an announcement, but I need to request some assistance. When I lived in Los Angeles, I remember reading about a group of people that were a bunch of self-avowed socialists and actually ex-communists who had moved out from New York City to Hollywood. And they had a unique living arrangement where they all lived in a building, but they each owned a piece of the building and not necessarily. What I'm looking for is somebody in this group who might have better connections with that end of the political spectrum than I do. If you know of any living arrangements or people either back east or out in California that live in some kind of a communal situation where they are tenants in common or something like that. And the reason I'm interested in it is there's a movement in the Dallas City Council to try to get some more low-income housing and housing for retired people. So I want to kind of see how this is done. So I'm Greg Clements. If any of you all know of anything or know of anybody in those lines or have ever heard of anything like that, please come up to me after the meeting. Thank you. Is that clear? Are there any questions of what I'm looking for? No? Well, sort of.
Cooperatives.
Okay.
Cooperatives, maybe.
Yeah, cooperative.
Cooperatives. All right. Any other announcements? Now's the time, if anybody has one. No? All right. We'll get that out of the way. Next week we have opposing fluoridation in Dallas. It's Regina Begbra. She's an activist all her life. Gave up on the west side of Buffalo, New York. She'll be our speaker here on that.
Can you turn up the volume? We can't hardly hear
You can't hear back there? All right. No, I can't turn it on. Does that sound better?
Hey, Tom,
Yeah.
Tom,
Yeah.
turn that speaker in a little bit because that wall's absorbing the sound.
Okay, can you hear me all right back there now? Good, all right. We don't want to be too loud, we don't want to be too soft, so that's how that works. It's too loud? No, it's good. Well, anyway, we have 2 weeks from now, we'll have another speaker on Islam is not the problem, and that should be interesting. He's a historian and author. And January 30th, does the Second Amendment protect individuals who are not members of a formal state militia? That's we had one on Second Amendment that we got thrown out of the place we were at last time. Part of that, we had 45 people there, and that was one of the problems. We had too many people. So anyway, that's what's coming up here. But our speaker tonight is Dr. Mark Ghouse, I think it is, Ghouse. I think I said Mouse, yeah, it rhymes with mouse, he said. And he's a community consultant, social scientist, thinker, writer, newsmaker, and a speaker on pluralism, interfaith Islam politics, known human rights, India, Israel, Palestine, and foreign policy. He is deeply committed to building a cohesive societies and offer pluralistic solutions to issues of the day. He will discuss how the Bush and Obama methods on handling terrorism have not worked. When the first method created more terrorism, and the second one was not mitigated against it, has not mitigated it. Also, as a moderate Muslim, Mike will discuss the Islamic way of handling terrorism, to wit, Mr. Baghdadi, you have 3 days to stop killing innocent people and destroying Allah's creation, life, and environment. If you do not heed the warning, we will hunt you down and ambush you wherever you hide. If not, we will give you a few square miles of time at a time and not hurt you, but to capture you and put you on trial and ask you to give up the false claims you are making about your religion. Soldiers from around the world will be on the front line against you, unquote. He argues that banning the religion is the dumbest thing to do, because we cannot beat, kick, back, shoot, bang, kill, or bury a religion. It is an intangible thing. Mike concludes that we can blame the individual and restore trust and harmony back for the society to function properly, peacefully, and cohesively. So without further ado, please give a very, very warm welcome to Dr. Mike Ghouse, our speaker tonight.
It's good to be back here. I'm so glad to be here, and the topic is very interesting. While I'm talking, if you got some questions, please write it down. Before we go out, I don't want you to go home thinking that I should have asked that question. We got to put, if you want to solve problems, we got to put everything on the table. Nothing should be held back. No matter what it is, shoot it. Let's see what we can find some answers. And that's the only way we can find solutions to the problems. Now on the topic, Jesus has said, condemn the sin, not the sinner. It's a very powerful statement that we can use it in everyday life. If you condemn the sinner, we lose the chance of redeeming that person. We lose the chance of getting that person back to agree with you and change what you want them to change. But if you condemn the sin, you're not condemning the individual, but condemning the sin. Give the chance to the person to redeem himself or herself, and that way we can create a society where we're not blaming everybody, but blaming their actions. It's a very powerful statement, and I'm very moved by it, and I quote that very frequently. Let me start, when I talked about war on terror is the dumbest idea, let me explain why it is the dumbest idea. When God created life, there were two forms. One is the animal form, one is the human form. And God could have created all of us exactly alike. He could have created a factory and specified all meant to be 6 feet tall, their nose bridge is about 3 inches, and he could have specified all that. I told, let's produce 3.5 billion men, 3.5 billion women with 2 exact specifications. But God chose not to do that. Instead, He created us to be unique individuals. Each one of us has our own thumbprint, eye print, DNA, a taste bud. This is what God wants us to be unique, and we are who we are, and we have to learn to respect and accept each other. So He chose to create different people, different animals. When He created animals, He knew that there is going to be fights. There's going to be fights between 2 animals, 2 goats fighting for the she-goat. And God said to the animals, okay, this is the formula I have. This is what I'm going to do to you guys, to the animals. I'm going to give you horns, fangs, or the past. You fight it out, you figure it out, how to deal with each other. Either you or me, that's the kind of thing. But when he created man, or humans, he said, I'm not going to do that. And probably Adam asked him, when do I get my horns? Or when do I get the paws to tear my enemy out? God said, no, I'm going to give you something better to you. Let the animals fight. That's the only option they have, to fight and resolve their disputes. But you, humans, I'm going to give you something better. Ability to dialogue, ability to talk and resolve your issues. So that's, if we upgrade ourselves as good human beings, everything can be dialogued, everything can be talked and resolved with issues. And we are afraid of things, all of us. We have one fear or the other. And that fear causes us to be defensive and try to attack others. But if you sit down and say, why are we fighting? Can be resolved through a conversation. Most of the issues can be resolved through a conversation. I'm going to give some bullet points, then come to the point. We say that evil exists because good people do nothing about it. That is so true. Everywhere, when we see something wrong, we don't say it. We are afraid that somebody will say something, or we don't want to create a scene, but we end up causing a much more damage to it. If you just speak up, there will be 2 or 3 other people to speak up with you. Things will change. Michael Moore, Cindy Sheehan, I call them my heroes, and a lot of people don't like them. If we had listened to them, the war could have been stopped long time ago. We called them all kinds of names, but they were wanting something good for America. And America got destroyed economically. In so many, we lost about 5,000 plus soldiers. What for? So we need to speak up. When somebody speaks up for the righteousness, we need to give them a hand. We need to support them. Much of this bloodshed could have been avoided. You know how many people lost their jobs? How many companies went out of business? Because of that, how many people went through divorces on our side? On the Iraqi side, so many women, there in that society, women are dependent on their father, brother, or husband to bring a living food on the table. When they are dead, the only choice they have is to get out on the street and sell flesh. And we caused so much evil through this war. And it is because we as Americans did not stand up with Cindy or Mike Moore. We should have done that. And hopefully we have learned a lesson. I have determined if there is a war again, I'm going to be out on the streets, whatever it takes. I don't want the war. I don't want destruction of others, let alone our own. The economy will be destroyed too. And again, the war on the terror is the dumbest idea that was ever there. Of course, people say war is necessary. War is necessary. In case of Second World War, there was no way we could have dialogued with Hitler. That was a war. The country was going on a war. Terrorism is not by a nation. It is not a country that is terrorizing anybody. It is individuals or a band of individuals doing the wrong work. So we cannot go to war with them. We have to get the individuals. As Tom had mentioned earlier, in a society, if there is a rapist running around in your neighborhood, everybody is apprehensive. Everybody closes the doors and watches for their daughters and kids because there is a rapist out there. But when we catch the rapist, it brings relief to everyone. Now coming to the religion, and this is where we made a mistake. Although President Bush said it is not war on Islam, but it was a war on Islam in disguise. Let me share you a little story. This happened on Sean Hannity Fox News show. I said, Sean, if you had a niece coming from a small town in Oregon or South or North Dakota where there is absolutely or almost no crime, she wants to come to New York or she wants to come to Dallas, and says, Uncle Sean, where should I go? Where is the lowest crime? And Sean, if you are honest, you would look it up. You can look at two ways. You can look up the crimes in New York. There were like 8,000 rapes in a given year and like 600 murders. If I tell your niece, don't go to New York, they are rapists and murderers, would you buy that argument? No. Or if I'm in Dallas and said we had 3,000 rapes and 160 murders, by the way, the rates are going down. And again, which is a good news, but then would we defend? Then all of a sudden we said, look, we have murderers, we have rapists, but not all of New Yorkers are rapists. Not all are murderers. The 160 murders in Dallas, we are not murderers here. Those 160 are murderers. Those 8,000 are rapists. And I said, why don't you look in this way? If there are, you call it Muslim terrorism, there are similar numbers, same percentage of Muslims are doing wrong things. There could be anybody. Why are you calling them Muslim? Call them terrorists, that's who they are. We punish them, we capture them, punish them, and be done with it, and restore peace in the society. But if you call them Muslim terrorists, what will happen? It's like me calling you, Sean Hannity, a rapist, because you live in New York, there are some 8,000 rapes. If I call you rapist, you will defend. I'm not. Same thing applies there. You cannot slap all the murders on a group of people. And what happens? You defend. Hey, look, don't call New Yorkers murderers or rapists. We are not. And Muslims will defend the same way. And you cannot blame the entire city of New York for the wrong people. You can't blame Muslims for the wrongdoers out there. Get them. All of us want them. It's just not you. Muslims don't want them because their life is at risk as much as anybody else's life. And in fact, Muslims get the double shaft. First, their religion gets blamed. Second, because they get blamed. What did they do? They did nothing. These criminals did everything wrong. So, that what the president had done was wrong, to go bombard the entire Afghanistan or Iraq, destroying their economies, destroying us, so many soldiers killing. It was worthless. And look at Obama, on the other hand. He said, I'm going to get bin Laden. He got him. And what did he do? He just got him. There was no collateral damage except the damaged helicopter. And that is the right thing to do. Get the bad guy, put them behind, kill them if they needed to be, but that's the right thing to do. Kill the bad guy, not who are affiliated with it. If I do something wrong today, it's my tail or my hiney that goes to jail. What has my parents got to do with it? What has my mayor of Dallas has got to do with it? What has my rabbi, my imam, my clergy has got to do that? Are they telling me to go do wrong? No. It's me who is doing, and I should be punished. Once we take that stance, the Muslim world will not be shy about capturing bin Ladens and all the other things, because they know they are not being maligned. Like we are not telling New Yorkers are rapists, we're telling those rapists are rapists. If we take that stand, believe me, the Muslim world will be out there supporting, because it is not them that are blamed, it is the bad guys. All of us want the bad guys out. So that approach has failed, that didn't work. And President Obama and the Syrian, and when he said, when they cross the red line, he was going to get them, he should have gotten them. What, in September last year, and September 3, 2014, I wrote an article in Huffington Post, and I said, this is the best way to deal with those terrorists, the ISIS terrorists, they are misquoting Islam. Islam doesn't tell them anything, but they're misquoting Islam. So why don't we quote Islam back to them? Use their own language and hit them back. In Islam, the Quran says, if somebody evicts you, somebody chases you, you tell them to stop. If they don't stop and jump on you, you try to threaten them, don't jump on me, I'm going to get you. When you tell them that I'm going to get you and they start running around, hiding in the bushes, that's where the verse says, go hunt them down wherever they are. If you find them, kill them. And that's what we do. If some robber comes to our home and intends to rob us, we can kill the robber and put them out because he's a threat to our life. So I said in that article that why don't we give an ultimatum to Baghdadi? Hey, Mr. Baghdadi, you got 3 days. We want you to retrieve, back off. If not, we will hunt you down and get you. We're not going to kill anybody else, just you and the ones that are supporting you. And the world, not only the world, the people surrounding them would have supported us. Because it is not Muslims, it is not them, it is those evil criminal men that we were after. And we didn't do that. Then one of the other ideas I suggested was, it's a very blocked area. ISIS, what they captured is landlocked. There is no access for them to water or any other country. They are completely blocked. We can block them. We can take a square mile area at one time as a test. Tell them you don't surrender. We're going to put tear gas 1 square mile area. Not to kill you or hurt you, but we want to knock you down, come and grab you and put you on the trail. The reason I said on the trail is these guys, we talk about eliminating terrorism from the root. By killing them, we're not eliminating them. When we killed so many innocent people in Afghanistan, their children, their families, how revengeful they might be feeling. Why did we kill them? They were innocent. Marriages were conducted, we bombed them. And that is wrong. And so there is a hatred for that. If we meet hatred with equal hatred, we're just being like them. That doesn't solve them. What we need to do is pull them up and put them on the trail. Tell me where in the Quran it says to kill anybody. Quran is very clear. There is no ifs and buts. You cannot kill yourselves. There is no self-immolation. You cannot commit suicide, nor can you kill anybody. It's both in Torah and Quran, the same verses there. Killing one person is like killing the whole humanity. Saving one life is like saving the whole humanity. If you put those bad guys on the trail, I'm looking for some funding to make a trial film showing them. They cannot say it. It's not in the Quran. So what does it will do? If people watch, see that those guys are not able to answer in the court of law, we can kill them, but we will not solve the problem. The cause is still there. If you put them on the trail and give them, I'll give you 30 days. Find in the Quran where it says to kill other people, kill other innocent people, kill women, slave women. It is not in the Quran. And if they struggle and cannot prove it, and then what it does, 2 things. The recruits that they are trying to recruit all around, they will say these guys are liars. They are cheating us. Why are they telling us that it is in the Quran? It is not in the Quran. That recruitment effort will cut down dramatically. Second thing would be they themselves will start thinking, questioning, why are we doing this? What is that we're going to gain? Some of them are hardcore criminals. You can't do anything about it. But the majority of them are not that hardcore criminals. There is a very good story in the country of Yemen. There the judge, the Al-Qaeda operatives were imprisoned. There were about 15 of them were in a jail. The Yemeni judge walked up to them and said, look, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to give you copies of the Quran. This is a documented real story. I'm going to give you the copies of the Quran, all the 15 or 20 of you. Read it. And if you find anything that is being told to you by Osama bin Laden, that this is what is in the religion, find it. If you find it, what he said is the truth, I will join you. If you don't find it, what shall I do with you? And he said, if you don't find it, I'll release you. And they had an incentive to do that. For 30 days, they labored, looked through the Quran, every place. They could not find a single words that is being claimed out there. And what did they do? They were angry. They were mad that they have been duped by the Al-Qaeda guys. And what did they do after that? The judge not only released them, but they became defenders of freedom. They were hunting down the Al-Qaeda because they knew the people. They were trying to capture the Al-Qaeda guys. That is how you eradicate terrorism. Not by killing, not by shooting them, because you create more. You need to go to the root, and the root is, where do they find the source? Where are they quoting from? If you can prove them that they're wrong, and when they see it in open public that they're being proven to be wrong, we cut down the recruitment for them, one. Number two, and some of them will give up because they know, like the Al-Qaeda guys, said they were being duped to them. So those are the points. And how are we doing time? Good, okay. And again, when we capture them, when we tear gas 1 square mile in ISIS territory and capture them, whoever falls, and assure them that we are not here to kill you guys, we want to find the truth from you. Killing will not solve the problems. We need to find out why they are doing what they are doing. We put them on the trail, and we can do 1 square mile at a time, and that will really frighten them. That we are mean business, we are serious about it, and also we are very clear, we are not there to kill you. We are here to find the truth. Tell us, show me where it is. If they can't, then we go through the proper procedure, and we want to show them that we are more civil than you guys. We're not just going to kill you. We're going to go through the process. We're going to give you all the chances we can. We want to redeem you. Hopefully, you will see the falsity and wrong things you are doing. And not all of them will come. Some of them will come. And that's one way of getting the terrorists out. And let's see. And again, there are a few things. The book of Quran. I was an atheist for most of my life. And I was like Sean Hannity and some of the people, I was attacking Islam myself when I was for a long time. One day, it was 1999 or 2000, I forgot, somewhere near that time. I was always a pluralist, meaning respecting all religions. I was flipping the Hindu holy book as I read Bible, Torah, all books I have. And I opened one book. There was one verse that said, finding the truth is your own responsibility. And then I started reading on it. Even if your mother tells you, still you are the one that's going to, if you have a nightmare, you alone will bear the problem. If you're afraid of something, nobody can share that. You feel the fear inside you. You are the only one that can solve your problem. Others can support you, help you, but you ultimately have to rid of that fear. And going through that verse turned me around. That day, I was watching Fox News, and they were all attacking Islam and Quran. And I said, is this true? What they're saying? Because I was with them for a long time. Then I started digging. A lot of things is miswritten. Even Muslims have miswritten some of it, which is a shameful thing. And nobody had done anything about it. So we have taken some strong step. The Quran has been mistranslated twice. Once by the Christian kings in 1142, just around the time of Crusades, to cause their subjects to hate the Muslims. So the kings can consolidate their power. Then after the fall of the Ottoman Empire in 1924, some of the right-wing Muslims translated the Quran, only one, to cause Muslims to hate Jews and Christians. It is, luckily the Arabic version is intact. There is no such thing in Arabic version. But in the English translation that was there, we discovered all this in the last 10 years. If we didn't have the 9/11, we would have never known it, we would have never looked into that. We looked into it, we have corrected many of those things, but still, there is a lot more work that needs to be done. The best thing to do is for all of us to sit down and do a conference, put everything on the table. Let's find, because nobody, no religion wants bad things to happen. Not one religion in the world. They want goodness, they want to build cohesive societies. Tom, you mentioned the word cohesive societies. Let me give a general idea of what a cohesive society means. Human body is composed of brain, heart, lungs, all different organs. And if there was an argument between different organs of the body, the brain can say, I am the most important part in the human body. The heart can say, no, I'm the most important. Each organ can argue. And the one at the bottom can say, I am the most important organ in your body. Everybody will laugh. You are the bad thing. How can you say you are the most important? No, you are not. We are important, not you. And the little one says at the bottom, let me show it to you. He shuts down for 2 days. And everybody says, no, you are important. Cohesiveness is all different organs working together to give us a normal life. If you talk about cohesive America, all different aspects of society, whether we are Baha'i, Buddhist, Christian, Jain, Jewish, Sikh, Zoroastrian, Native Americans, pagans, or if you look at African Americans, white and the browns, or any other classification, if we can consider we are all part of one connected world, and we have to function together for the common goodness, then we will function well. And that's what cohesive society means. And I got a few more things and I'll be done. Then I'm open to any questions. Restoring society, each one of us has a responsibility. When we see something wrong, when we see something is not right, the least we can do is speak up. It's amazing. When in a group of people, somebody is saying something which is not truthful, and it carries, it's like a fountainhead, it keeps expanding. One person says, no, this is not wrong, this is not factual, that's not how it is. All of a sudden everybody stops. And wrong thing stops from spreading. So each one of us has a responsibility to stop whatever is lying. And we have to contribute. We don't have to look for of course, in the US, we don't look for the government to do things for us. Each one of us have to do on our own. What am I doing today to contribute to everybody else to create a better society? I'll conclude with a quote from Native American Chief Seattle. It's a very powerful statement. I started with Jesus, concluding with Native American. He said, we didn't create this world. And he says, whatever befalls the earth, it hurts every inhabitant of the earth. We didn't create this web of the world. All these things is a large web. He says we are merely a strand in this web. If we hurt the web, we are hurting ourselves. Each one of us can help run the society peacefully. No matter what others are doing, at least we need to contribute. If we do double our share, we can carry the world to be a better world. That's all it takes. Thank you very much.
Stay there and answer questions now.
Yes.
We want to thank Beverly for helping us find this wonderful place. Thank you.
Dr. Ghouse,
Oh, let's Dr. Ghouse.
Don't hold him so close.
You're in front of the speaker.
That's in front of the speaker.
Can you just turn this microphone down?
Well, why don't you hold it farther from you? Hold it farther from you.
I am, but it's,
No,
okay.
farther from you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Ghouse. Dr. Gauss, I have a,
Can you speak without it?
He's gonna turn the microphone down.
Oh, okay.
Number 3.
Which is number 3?
Please think of any question. You should ask anything on your mind.
testing one, there we go, that's perfect. Dr. Gauss, I have a couple of questions. One of them is, why is this business with these so-called Islamic terrorists even labeled as a religious issue? The reason I say that is because we have people who bomb abortion clinics who claim that they're doing it for Christianity, but everyone knows, but it's not, they're not doing it for Christianity, they're doing it to be violent. We have people who take gay people and take them out in the cold and lash them to fences and leave them to die in the name of Christianity. But we know that that's not Christianity. And so I don't understand why it is that we label these people as Muslims doing these acts as opposed to common criminals, despite the fact that they claim it's because of Islam, because it really isn't.
Well, two answers for that. We should not, the police chief in London, he gives a very good example. When one of the terrorists on the street killed somebody on the street, and he says, Allahu Akbar, God's great, and he killed. And he said, because my religion was hurt. The police chief grabbed his neck and he says, don't give me that bull. Your religion doesn't tell that. You, SOB, sorry for the language, you SOB killed them, I'm gonna get you. Don't give me any other bull, I'm not buying it. And that's the way we should take it. You did it, you pay for it. Second good news, I'm on Stuart Varney as well as Hannity show. Stuart Varney about 4 weeks ago, he promised on television after talking to him, he saw the logic and he promised he will not use the word Muslim terrorist anymore on his show. Sean Hannity had promised that, but he failed a few times. I understand that, but there is a movement and they're seeing it. And but we all have to do that. We all have to correct ourselves. We had 355 mass murders, that is murdering more than 10 people at a time. In the US this year, one of them was committed by those Muslims in San Bernardino. All of a sudden, we're talking about terrorism, Muslim terrorism, and all. If you look at the numbers, we have 318 million Americans, and we have 354 acts. That is roughly about 1.8%. The Muslims are about 3 to 4 million, and that is less than 0.5%. If you look proportionality, even killing one is wrong. But if you have a population that big, somebody is going to be wrongful in that. We got to get them as criminals. Why label it as religion? His religion didn't do it. There are about 6 million or 3 million of us. We are not doing anything like that. My religion doesn't tell me to do that. And no religion tells anybody to do that. So we need to promote this more often. And each one of you, if you can quote some statistics, hey, this guy did wrong. Do you want to punish him or something intangible? Tom alluded earlier in the reading. If you find the wrongdoer, you capture a rapist, a murderer, put them in the jail, it gives relief to the society that the bad guy is out. If you blame the religion, first of all, religion is an intangible. You cannot slaughter the religion. You cannot shoot the religion. You cannot kick the religion. You cannot bury the religion. Why bark at it? Religion is intangible. bark at the guy who did wrong, punish that guy. Don't blame the religion. You're just barking if you're blaming the religion. Does that answer your question?
Well, but what you're also doing is you are angering the people who do practice that religion because they feel attacked.
I wish more of you speak. Thank you. Appreciate that. Tom, it can be used, one of these can be used.
This is our first time in this location, so
Yeah.
you're getting some tips.
Can we use this one of them?
Yeah.
What is your nation of origin?
India.
India, okay. Clarify for me one point. Are you claiming that there is no such thing as state-sponsored terrorism?
Yes.
A head of India's CIA, former head, in 2004, when I was attending a Homeland Security meeting, was giving his condolences to the Americans for the 3,000 lost on 9/11. And he said how great your loss is, but India has lost even more to terrorism from Pakistan. 30,000 dead in terrorist acts.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Look at Pakistan. 180,000 people were murdered, butchered by the terrorists in Pakistan. It's not the Pakistani government that is sponsoring terrorism. It is the individual groups out there.
If someone else has a question, you're going to have to come up here, I guess.
So there are 180,000 Pakistanis have been murdered by fellow Pakistanis, and
Is
they.
that working now? Check. Okay, now it's working.
Okay. Let me complete that answer. 180,000 Pakistanis were murdered by fellow Pakistanis. The government is, the Pakistan is not sponsoring it. Bad guys in Pakistan is doing. And we have in the United States some groups that hold hostage. Those 354 mass murders, did the United States sponsor those terrorists? No, we didn't. Those individuals. Same thing in Pakistan, individuals are doing, and the government of Pakistan is sick of those guys. Yes, sir.
He's standing up there, that's fine. Okay. Sorry.
Don't get away from the speaker. Is this good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand Islamic scholars who study the Quran. When
Bill, talk right into the mic.
Islamic scholars who study the Quran,
Closer to the mic.
Islamic scholars who study the Quran have developed a doctrine called the doctrine of abrogation, with reference to the seeming discrepancy between the peaceful statements of Muhammad while he is living in the town of Mecca early in his career, and his later violent statements while he is living in the town of Medina. Can you comment upon the Islamic doctrine of abrogation and how it might relate to your contention that Islam, in its essence, is a peaceful religion?
Absolutely. First of all, this doctrine of abrogation was manufactured by the right-wing Muslims somewhere in the around 11th century or 12th century, because they wanted to like some of the evangelicals want to reinterpret the Bible to suit their needs. Muslims also tried to do the same thing in the 11th century when they were going through some tough times. They wanted the Quran to support their crimes, and they try to do that. So my contention, and I have challenged many imams around the world, they're listening to it. And I said, abrogation, what you are telling is, if you as a Muslim believe the word in Quran is the word of God, what you're telling is, God telling, hey, look, I'm saying this, I goofed up what I said earlier, now I'm going to tell you something different. And God cannot do that. It's your own understanding that is false. If you believe it's God's word, then God cannot goof up. What he says is what it is. And now coming to the second part, the Mecca versus Medina versus, I think Ayan Hirsi Ali has propagated that idea. I met with her about 3 weeks ago. I'm looking to have a debate with her on that issue. And none of the verses, what I call is the justice verses, there are about 16 justice verses in Quran. And the formula is exactly same for all the 16 verses, which is, if somebody evicts you, virtually you can look back, exact same story on all of them. If somebody evicts you from your home forcibly, tell them to stop. Second, if they don't listen to you, ask them again to stop at you. But when they jump at you, chase them and hunt them wherever they are and kill them. But in the process, if they repent, regret, said sorry, then he said you cannot be aggressive anymore. You have to accept their apology and not be aggressive and hunt them down or kill them. This is the formula of all the verses. But if you just pick that verse, wherever you find them, kill them, it looks very bad. Indeed it does. It's like reading the Supreme Court judge or the High Court judge in Texas telling the whole story about a murderer. And because of this fact, we're going to hang this guy, we're going to give this guy electric chair. If you just read the electric chair, it looks very bad, how cruel they are. But you got to read what is before and what is after. And I will challenge anybody openly, anyone, anywhere, to sit down and go through those verses. And you see that formula very well laid out. No book of God, whether Bible, Quran, or anyone, will tell people to be wrongful. And that challenge is open. Not only that, I gave that challenge to Pastor Robert Jeffress of the Baptist Church downtown Dallas. And he said, Quran is an evil book written by an evil prophet. And I said, understand that. You read it someplace, you heard it someplace, that's fine with me, but show it to me where. Where did you hear? And did you verify that? And I'm here to sit down with you. Let's put the Quran in your church, in public, in open. Show me 3 verses in Quran that are maligned, that we agree that they are bad verses. Then I will become a Baptist in the open thing. If not, I want you to become a peacemaker with me. He backed off. He cannot show it. And that challenge remains open to the entire world. Anybody wants to take it, is there. I hope that answers your question. I'm saying with full confidence because I was an atheist. I attacked the Quran. I attacked Islam. Then I found out that was all lies. Yes, sir.
All right, my name's Roland Rangel. I'm actually running for U.S. Congress, District 24, to replace Kenny Marchant. We're trying to bring objectivity, common sense, and accountability to Washington. If you'd like to talk a little more afterwards, I'd be more than happy to chat with you. Doctor, I had to get my plug in there for a second. Doctor, thanks so much for coming and chatting with us. You are definitely hitting on every point that I've had myself have thought about, especially getting to the root of all this. I think, what's the saying? An eye for an eye makes the world go blind. I think we're probably creating even more terrorists with drone strikes. The stats show that we're killing more innocent people than actually terrorists through these drone strikes. The question I did have to ask you when it comes to this topic was, where does the term jihadist come from, and would that be related to ISIS, or is that something separate from that?
Sure. There was one war that Prophet Muhammad, I will come to you after this, thank you. There was one war, Prophet and his companions walked back, and they sit down, and then his associates ask him, what is next? Then Prophet says, we have a major jihad. Jihad is internal struggle. He said, now that we are the victors, we have this inclination to rape, murder, and abuse those whom we captured. Fighting that evil inside you is the bigger jihad. The war that we won is a minor jihad. And that's where it comes from. And jihad simply means struggle, internal struggle. And of course, the right-wing Muslims in the 11th century, during the times of Crusades, if you remember, as a response to the Crusades, they used that word jihad means to go kill others. And that is not in the Quran. And somehow that has been carried forward without being questioned. But those true scholars know that it is not there. But it is a myth, it is a perception. We have to fight to it. It will take some time.
Thank you.
Welcome. I think the gentleman in the back, he's been raising his hand. No.
Hi, this is an omnidirectional map, I can see. You made a remark about wanting to crowdfund a documentary,
Yes.
an independent lens or a point of view.
Mhm.
What perspective would you go by? We have something on social media, I believe not in my name, you've heard of that.
Yes.
Well, here we go. What perspective would you go from? Would you go from a historical perspective on that film, showing how it's grown today, or would you go from people from their misconceptions or from legitimate Islam? How would you convey this information in a documentary?
Okay. In the documentary, it's going to be actors. We're going to get actors that look like those guys, ISIS guys, and we will show them, we are capturing them, and we put them on the trail. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll ask them, tell me where it is in the Quran. And the trail will go on. It's a total 10 minutes documentary, or it could be 15 minutes. People don't watch long ones. So if it is 10 minutes, it will question them where it is. The purpose of that, I hope the State Department buys that our funds us. The purpose of that is twofold. One is to tell the future recruiters, those people that are there recruiting, to tell them that it is not in the Quran, it is there, make it up. And second part of the documentary is showing these young kids, innocent kids, who are going there thinking that it is a God's work. If they see women being raped and the Yazidis, Christians, and being murdered, which is completely against Quran, if we show them what will happen to them if they go there, that will put some fear in their hearts. Some of them will hold back from doing that. It is a two-purpose documentary, to stop the recruitment, and second, to tell the world that they are wrong. It is not based in the religion. They are criminals, they are doing that.
Under the Young Turks in Turkey, there were 1.5 million Armenian Christians genocided. Are you saying that was not a religious act?
It is not a religious act. Religion does not tell you to do wrong. The Turkish Empire, Ottoman Empire at the time, they were very arrogant, and they just didn't care about other people's life, and they focused on Christians, Armenian, and they murdered them. It was a genocide that was wrong, and I think Turkey needs to apologize. They need to have the guts to apologize for their wrongdoing. You don't go, if you apologize for what you did wrong, it builds bridges back again. If not, people will hold against each other their live intentions. That was not religious, but that was very criminal of Turkish people to do it. And a funny thing, the Turkish government held us hostage, the United States government, from declaring that as a genocide. And we should have, a genocide is genocide. Even if they're friends of us, it doesn't matter. We need to give them relief. By admitting that they're wrong, it is a relief to them. Sorry.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned a upcoming debate with Ileana versus Ali.
Yes,
Is that going to be broadcast?
it will be. It will be. I'm talking to her. Hopefully we'll get together. And my contention with her was same. Show me where it is in the Quran.
Relay that to Tom, who could email it to us so we could listen.
I will send it to Tom when we get that set up. I will write on my blog. The blog is thegaussdiary.com. It will be on that. Announcements will be on it. But I will send a note to Tom.
Oh, yeah. Dennis Prager.
I was on his show once, but I was just in Houston. There was I got on his show just like that when he realized I'm with Hannity regularly. In Houston, they held a basketball match on Saturday, knowing full well that the Jewish community team could not participate. That was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. So I called in and I said that was wrong, knowing that on Sabbath day the Jewish people don't participate. You shouldn't have held the program that day.
My suggestion would be, if you want to have a genuine debate, why don't you invite this Percy Ali, who knows Dennis Prager, to ask him to participate. He is fluent in Arabic and would be able to, you could point out original texts that you think have been mistranslated, and he would be a reasonable authority.
In fact, I'm so glad, in the Parliament of Religions in Australia, Melbourne in 2009, I gave a presentation on the very same issue, and I asked, on the 7th verse in the first chapter, I asked, it was full. Most people thought I was Christian. The Arabs and the Iranian clergy, they were all sitting there. And I asked, is someone here in the audience who can read Arabic but not a Muslim? Guess who stood up? Bishop Ria, the Bishop of Jerusalem in Christianity. He stood up and said, I'm Christian, I'm the bishop responsible in Jerusalem. I can read in Arabic. He read it, it was not there.
Have you ever thought about taking your campaign to Iran, Iraq, or Saudi Arabia to foster healing?
I think we need to do that.
What do you think would happen if you personally went over there and tried to make these points?
Now people will listen to reason. I'll give you an example. For example,
You think the mullahs in Tehran would allow you to speak? You think you'd get out of the country alive?
actually I was invited in March last year. I couldn't go there. I was going to go there and teach them pluralism. They are interested in learning about pluralism, and they were going to teach me about the Shia theology for 2 weeks. I couldn't go there, and the State Department wouldn't help me get the visa either at that time. And they're going to invite me again, I'll go. But if you quote them back from the Quran, if you quote out of thin air, they will not accept you. But if you quote directly from the Quran, show them, they will see it. They will not argue with you. If you take the Quran, nobody will argue with you. Even the extreme mullah, even Osama bin Laden, a terrorist, would not argue with you if you show him the Quran. They cannot argue with that. And I have seen many people bow down to the Quran. But I'm not saying I'll be safe, but I will try.
Good. When you get back, let me know. I don't know. I was going to change the subject away from the Muslims to the great Satan. There's a lot of reports. What the hell? There's a lot of reports that the ISIS terrorists, I guess these guys, you call them the bad guys,
They are.
got all their arms from the United States. So how's that fit in?
Well, we have made some mistakes in the past, and we need to fix them. And our foreign policy, we need to reevaluate. Like Rick Perry was talking when he was about to run, we had to start from scratch. All foreign policy, all funding overseas, we need to start from scratch. We have made, for example, I'll give you one quick example about Iran and Egypt. In 1979, when the people in Iran revolted against Shah of Iran, who was a tyrant, he was forcing people to do things against their will. And we stood with Shah of Iran. At that time, now compare that to Obama again. I'm not a big fan of Obama, but he has done a lot of good things. In Egypt, when Mubarak, the tyrant, was going on and on and on, the Egyptian public were against him. What did Obama do? He told Mubarak to step down. That was the right thing to do. So the message the Egyptians got was that Americans are with us, the people of Egypt, not with the tyrant who is forcing us. They got that message. And let me go back to Iran now. When I love Jimmy Carter, he's one of my most humanitarian presidents, but I think he, whatever situation he was, instead of telling Shah of Iran, hey guy, step down, let people have their own way, work with them, none of this animosity would have ever occurred, because the Iranian people were always good to us, were always friendly with us. They would have seen that, look, America is not with the guy who is oppressing us, they're with us. Then why would they be enemies with us? So we made that mistake, and the similar mistake would have happened if Obama had not told Mubarak to step down. Egyptians are not anti-American. They would have if we had sided with Mubarak. So this is a very clear contrast of how goofy our foreign policy is. And all of us are responsible for it because we are not speaking up. We need to speak up and fix those things. I guess that answers your question. Is the foreign policy.
Can you, I think this is a non-controversial question, I hope.
I like controversial questions.
And that question is, is there an English translation of the Quran?
Yes.
That you would recommend?
Absolutely.
That is not mistranslated?
Yes.
And what would be the author and the name of
The author's name is Muhammad Asad, A-S-A-D. And I will write a blog about this. I took some pictures. I will write on that if you forget. Just go to the GhouseDiary.com. I will write. Muhammad Asad is, by the way, he was a rabbi, and he translated the Quran. It is the most accepted translation in the world, most accessed translation. It has got all the good things, but he translated about 60 years ago. There are still a few flaws in it, and the problem has always been men have always interpreted all the holy books. Now and whatever suited them, they did it. Now for the first time, a woman has translated the Quran, Dr. Lale Bakhtiar. She has fixed those 3 errors that Asad had, and I will list these exactly verse numbers in my blog, that way you can access. But Muhammad Asad is the most correct translation, not exactly, but most correct. Thank you.
Okay, you have made a distinction between 2 types of Islam. On the one side, the pure, more correct Islam that you'd like to see followed, and then a sort of rogue, apostate, wrong Islam that is hurting, killing people. Well, isn't that a problem within Islam, a Muslim problem, and what is being done about it?
Good point. It's until 10 years ago, until 9/11, that's a very historical date. Nobody ever questioned what was translated. Nobody actually read the Quran. Even Muslims didn't read. They recited a few verses and went on about their way. Nobody knew what was written, what was translated. So first time in the last 10 years, I am one of the lead in there. We have questioned the Sharia. Where there is, for apostasy, there is absolutely no punishment in Quran. We put a website together with 100 Muslim scholars. dating from the time of Muhammad till now, there is no punishment in Quran anywhere, but the kings, remember, in Islam, after the Prophet was gone, it was taken over by kings, dictators, and monarchs, and they did what suited them, not what was righteous in the religion. So blasphemy is not in Islam, neither that. And these were never questioned. We are questioning now, and more people are siding with that, and there are full blanks on that. It's going to go away in the next 10 to 12 years. The blasphemy, apostasy, stoning women to death, these are all very wrong, and they should go away. And work is being done. Work is being done, not enough. I'm not happy with the amount of work, but nobody dares to challenge what is out there. Everybody is scared. I mean, it happens here too. And if you go to a church group, people have dying questions, but they don't ask worried what others will say. It's common with all humanity. But you're right, blasphemy, apostasy, many of these Sharia things are going to go away, and we are standing, I have written, and many Muslims are taking a stand. Islam will be corrected from the United States. America does a good thing to all religions, and it will be fixed and corrected, restored to its pristine. Islam, like any religion, has got one simple formula. How do we restore trust in the society? How do people can go out of the home, not worry about their children and family? How can they go to work and come back safe? This is what all religions want. That's how they have created all this. Bad people do bad things. Religion continues to teach them good. And now we had more good people have to speak up. And that will change. Takes time.
Sit down now.
Okay.
Okay, now it's your turn to talk, so you get to come on up here. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I guess I join the fools here who come up to this podium on both sides. I'm Nathan Brin. I've dealt with Robert Jeffries. I was the person who said to him directly, "You can't be Baptist, fully Baptist, until you're Jewish first," and the room erupted with amens. He turned white. However, I heard our good speaker say, "Condemn the sin, not the sinner." I haven't seen this condemnation from one of the world's largest religions and their segments around the world on the rocketing of Israel. Where was this? Silence? Silence is golden, I guess, in the Middle East. Entebbe? No. The Achille Lauro? No. Munich? No. The World Trade Center? Not really. The only Islamic who came up and spoke out was the uncle of the Saranov brothers. He screamed on the news media and said, "This is wrong." And he said everybody else should join. It didn't happen. Now, I think the Islamic world is missing one thing, and Mike is not aware of it because he hasn't, I'm not sure he's been in the culture here. People here are outraged, and this is what's fueling Donald Trump. They're outraged because the Muslim mullahs don't go and pound the tables and say, "This is wrong." It should be. We expect it. It's not happening. And until it does, then it's time to slap the arrogant face of any religion, culture, or creed that acts like animals, burning people alive in cages like ISIS. We've got to stop it. And if America has to go into Afghanistan, if we have to go into Pakistan and physically jerk out Osama bin Laden and kill him, fine. I say do it. As far as the Palestinian situation, yes, for I know, for all these years in the Palestinian situation, the Arab countries, mostly Islamic, they didn't say, "Come into our countries and live and settle." They said, "We'll help fund you with arms and food and the United Nations to stay in refugee camps." Where was this charity? Now, I've looked at the Koran too. I have one. A good friend of mine, Mubarak Akram, who's in Kenya, gave me one. I gave him a verse of the Talmud about 15 years ago. He's in Kenya, very nice. Now, he told me once, he said, Nathan, I'm probably the only black Muslim who's never been arrested, never even been suspected of a crime. And he's right, probably never was, and he speaks fluent Arabic. He went to Egypt to learn. And he said the same thing. The outcry isn't there. Why? Because the people don't really believe it, or that's our perception. If they do, let them scream from the mosques, from the tops of the hills, this is wrong. We're not seeing that until we do. You know, I look at my Quran. Somewhere in there, it's from India. There's several versions in English. That's absolutely right. The one that I have says it's okay to lightly beat your wife, and it is in there.
It is in there?
It is in there.
That is correct. That is correct. That is correct.
That's wrong.
That is wrong and that is correct.
I understand. I'm just saying. So people can change, but what has irritated people in the United States and around the world is since Rudy Red Deutschke in the 70s did a couple of communist hijackings of airplanes, the ones we hear about for the most part, and the atrocities, we don't hear anything except the name Islamic Associated, Islamic terrorist, right or wrong. Who are these people if they're not Islamic? Somebody needs to come and scream at the top of their lungs and say, these aren't Islamic terrorists. Well, who are they? Well, we don't know, but they're not part of our group. We condemn them. The imams are not screaming at the top of their lungs. We expect to see that. If you can, Mike, carry the message back. That's what will get the respect. That's what we expect in the Western world. It's different, I know, in India. India is a very peaceful, polite country. Pakistan, not so polite. I've had my dealings in court. I'm probably the only attorney who ever entered a decree that had Sharia law in it. And that was in Judge Theo Bedard's court on a case called Al-Karkaz. My client was Basil Al-Karkaz, and the attorneys agreed and the parties to that. So if you hear somebody say Sharia law has never been used in the United States, wrong. It has right here in River City, Dallas, Texas. Now, I'm not here to sermonize, I'm just stating there's a perception. I don't think Donald Trump in his wildest imagination plans to carry out what he said, because he knows there's a Congress and there's an American public, but he is pointing out some things. People are upset, and the perception is millions and millions and millions of Muslims across the world have taken a mealy-mouthed approach. Okay.
You can have mine.
Okay, well, I'll take one more minute and I'll wrap this up. We need to hear from the imams on their pulpits, in the synagogues, and we need to hear less of CARE, the Council of American Islamic Relations, because they are known by at least one law firm, Greenberg Tarong, who filed a discovery request requesting to know about their ties with Hezbollah. Suddenly a lawsuit was settled against a guy who set up a website they decided they didn't want to produce. We have these issues, so it's two-sided. That's all I'm saying. Mike did a good job with his presentation, but I'm saying we got to hear what we need to hear, and we're not hearing it. And you understand, this has to be done, otherwise the American public, for the most part, no matter whether you're Jewish or Christian, says outrage. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Come on up here.
Well, Mike, as far as what preceded the Armenian genocide, there is an interesting anecdote that the Russian Tsar, and I don't know if it was Nicholas I or the preceding one before that was Alexander, whatever his name was, he said if a Muslim harms the hair, a single hair on the head of an Armenian Christian, in the countries under my control, I will come and I will obliterate you. There was peace until the Tsar was taken out. And then the Young Turks went to work, and we had 1.5 million dead. Now, that's really a footnote to the larger cost in human lives of the conquest of Islam, which some figure at 200 million. I would put it to you that I have a hard time seeing Islam as a peaceable religion. Now, you hail from India. India has a culture there, influenced by the great Mahatma Gandhi. Even Gandhi himself admitted that the policy of ahimsa, if you will, even the philosophy of ahimsa, only worked because violence was still on the table in the form at that time of Gangadhar Tilak. And the British knew that. They could take the door A or door B. Is it the lady or the tiger type thing? Well, they chose Gandhi, and they chose to go with him. So I think you are asking us to trust, but I say trust must be earned. There is such a thing as taking an oath. How about an oath of ahimsa for every Muslim in this country? We don't need 30,000 deaths in this country here. What we need is we need Americans to be Americans and say, I will abide by the laws of this country no matter what my religious creed is. And if I am a Muslim, I will honor you with an oath of ahimsa. I will give you an oath of non-harmfulness, which means I will not act on any of the, I don't know what you'd call it, because you're saying it's not there. But I'm seeing all these honor killings. I'm seeing people shouting Allah Akbar as they're slaughtering people. And that could be Jews, that could be Christians, that could be other sects of Islam that some of these people don't agree with. Now, in my experience growing up, my older sister was dating two Saudi Arabians, and I got to witness, I've told this at this mic before, I got to witness them fighting over her. And the way they fought over her is they both beat their chest and shouted, I will die first for Allah. No, I will die first for Allah. No, I will die first for Allah. That is a culture. That is a very strong culture where that is what's coming out of their mouths. They can't even admit that they might be contesting with each other over a woman. Thank you.
Well, the subject of religion for me is more and more becoming a thing of perspective. I think of all the divisions of humanity in history, religion has created more mayhem than anything else. Because God said it this way, or Allah said it this way, and we'll die for it. And that is how humanity is manipulated. And I think that it is very important for us to grow beyond these divisions of all the religions. Look at how many Christian religions there are. If you don't do it this way, you'll go to hell. We need to get above all of this and think of the principles that are taught by some of the finer people in life. I think some of the finest teachings ever were of Ma'at in ancient Egypt, two of which were, always speak the truth to everyone, and always treat everyone in a kindly manner. Ma'at's edicts became national laws in ancient Egypt, and that kingdom lasted with great peace and prosperity for some 5,000 years. How many years are we into the United States? And it's about gone. The principles that are paramount to all of our belief systems are the things that we need to strive for and realize that all of us on this earth are one. We're not divided, we let ourselves be divided, but in essence, in the higher sense of who we are, we're all the individual expression of one creator, whatever you want to call it. Today, I was sitting at my computer, and I hadn't even thought about what the topic was going to be tonight. I called Tom later and found out. And every now and then, when I'm just sitting in a kind of a passive state, I'll notice that a poem has appeared up on my computer. And so I wrote this one today, and it is called Time. Some say time is made of ticks and tocks, and so it seems as they fold their socks. Others feels like it's minutes and hours. They rise each morn and take their showers. And there are those living day by day, along this path, or maybe that way. Some long for the end of the week, paycheck, casino, a winning streak. Some lives more stable, live month to month. Their jobs pay better, call me for lunch. Then there are those whose end of the year brings them a bonus to match their peers. And others plan their games for decades. They set off wars and other charades. Most don't see patterns of centuries keeping them slaves bound in penury. History repeats by millennium. Those in control steal their premium. This course may seem to be eternal. When man wakens, evil's terminal. We need to all awaken and realize that we are all one creation of one creator, and forget all the different names and all the different beliefs and all the different theological schools, because all they're doing is dividing and creating chaos.
You know, I keep hearing this canard about how Muslim leaders must step up and denounce what is going on. Well, let me point out to you that when gay people are beaten to death in the name of Christianity, Christian ministers don't step up en masse and oppose it. When abortion doctors are murdered by people who claim to be Christians, we don't have Christian leaders stepping up en masse to oppose it. So why is it that we somehow think that Muslim leaders have some kind of an obligation different from the obligation that Christians or other people in our country have to denounce this activity, just simply because these mistaken and sick people claim to be doing it in the name of their religion?
Right.
Okay. Now, years ago, I went to a thing called the Ballot Box Barbecue, which was at Texas. Were you there?
I was the creator of that.
Well, I was there, and so you can vouch for what I'm going to say then. As we were driving in, there were people from Christ for the Nations, which was down the street, holding up protest signs that said, "Allah is dead." Okay, now these are the exact same people that would be protesting at some atheist event where somebody said God is dead. Okay, so that just shows their ignorance. In that event, we had all kinds of workshops, and I, as someone who is not very familiar with the Muslim faith, was very excited to learn things that I had not known before. One of the most wonderful things was when it came time for prayer, everybody in the place, whether they were Muslim or Christian or atheist, didn't make any difference, lined up on the yard lines in the stadium, because that happened to be facing in the correct direction to pray. We all prayed together. That's a tremendously moving experience. I will note, as I transition into another aspect of this, that there were 50 booths there by candidates for elected office who were running. And how many of them do you think were Democrats and how many of them were Republicans? There was one Republican candidate there. and all of the rest of them were Democrats. There's a reason for that, and that's because the Republican Party platform is all about hate. Look at the Republican presidential candidates who, when they say we need to round up the families of these terrorists and kill them, the people in the audience cheer and applaud. And what I want to know is, one, why is it that the Republican Party seems to think that the way for them to gain power in this country is by whipping people up into fear and hatred of other people? And then the second question I want answered is, why is it the American people are so stupid that they're falling for it? Now, I do have a question for you, Dr. Ghouse, and that is that, you know, we have the Anti-Defamation League, and we have the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is ostensibly a Christian organization that put together lists of hate groups. Whether they be Christian or whether they be Jewish or whether they be Zionist, whatever, okay? And what I want to know is, because I've been looking for this, is there a Muslim organization equivalent to that, that the purpose of which is to compile lists of hate groups and to publicize what they do and denounce them? Because I would love to donate money to that group if there is one.
There is none at this time.
Okay. So anyway, the final thing that I wanted to say is I was at a one of these flea markets last year. It's one of those places that sells everything from androids to stuffed zebras, right? And I was at a vendor where they were selling electronic stuff. And I walked up, and the guy, I didn't see him, and he was down on the floor on his rug praying. So I just stood there and waited. I thought, you know, and looked at the merchandise. I figured he'd be done in a few minutes, and he could wait on me. And this guy comes up and starts screaming at him and calling him names and telling him, how dare you not get up off the floor and wait on me now. And they was calling him racist names. And, you know, this is a big problem because we are not willing to, I said something to the guy and the manager came and put him out. But the point is, we are not very good in this country about denouncing intolerance. We have no obligation to listen to, support, or give any respect to people who think that they have the right to use violence or the law to deny equal civil and human rights to other people. And we are far too shy about standing up and denouncing those people and telling them that they have no place in our society, that it is anti-American, and that they are destroying our country by trying to turn it into something where their little claim of what's constitutional or what's religious is the only thing that's valid. And I'm sick and tired of it, and that's why I'm a Democrat and not a Republican. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? John.
Well, Mike, thanks for the information. I had the privilege of growing up in a country where religion really was dying away. Although we were all nominally Church of England, and every morning we said prayers at school, but nobody really believed it. And I think the reason is because most people saw through it. They just couldn't accept it. Now, when I look at religion, I see the most appalling cruelty done in the name of religion. So like Ronald Reagan, he got up and said, government is the problem. I think the problem is religion. I really do. Now, the Church of England, of course, has been responsible for some terrible acts. I have 4 heroes that were alive in my lifetime, early lifetime. John Maynard Keynes, George Orwell, Sir Henry Tizard, and Alan Turing. Now, Alan Turing, single-handedly, he was a mathematical genius, And he shortened the war by at least a year to 2 years, because we broke the German code that the Germans thought was unbreakable. The only problem for Alan was he's a homosexual. And he made the mistake of confessing it. And so after the war, he made the mistake of confessing it, I say, to some dumb, flatfoot policeman who hunted him down, okay? He was imprisoned, and he had to undergo forced castration, okay? Now, that was because of religion. Now, the man literally saved England. I mean, a few more months of the war, and Britain, V2s were landing on London, and I was there, whole blocks disappeared. Now, that guy saved England. Nobody stepped forward to say no, because that was the power of the church, and it was evil and wrong. Princess Margaret, okay, loved a Spitfire pilot, wanted to marry him in the 50s. She couldn't do that because he was a divorced man. There again, religion steps in with these, prohibitions. Now, for me, for my part, I'd have done with a whole lot of it, really. It just doesn't make any sense. It causes division. It causes hatred. It's always a peg for the lunatics to hang their hat on and say, it's kind of like the American Constitution. I mean, as I've said before, there are two versions, one for the Democrats, one for Republicans. They read it, they find different things in it. Same with religion. Look, my mind is, look, I'm a scientist. I believe in, I only believe what I can see and measure, okay? And if the measurement is wrong, we change our minds. We say, okay, guys, I was wrong, sorry, we'll change the theory. Religion, no, you can never do that. Whatever was written 5,000 years ago, here's the word. To me, it's all nonsense.
John, why don't you say what you really feel?
Next time I will.
Okay, Susan, if you could time me, hopefully you won't need a taser. I'd like to thank you for coming out for such a colorful discussion. We tend to drone on about the same things over and over again, and you're a real breath of fresh air to us. I really appreciate you, and I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the North Texas Islamic Association. Were it not for them, I would have died for an otherwise treatable simple infection. Thank you very much to the Islamic Association. Their doctors saved my life.
My wife said at the clinic.
Is it Dr. Solomon?
No, my wife said at the clinic.
Is it the one that with the headscarf that runs the 8 properties at the desk? Oh, I'm so sorry.
She said at the clinic.
Well, that clinic saved my life. The Christians, they really didn't care. I don't like to let the facts interfere with a good story, but as we all know, it sells well. And I'd like to talk to you about one word that I think that could cover a lot of what we've been talking about. It is called ignorance. What is ignorance? Ignorance, by definition, I didn't get a chance to hit Susan to Google it, but in my heart and mind, ignorance is a lack of knowledge. Where is ignorance? Is ignorance in India? Is ignorance in Saudi Arabia? Is ignorance playing a banjo on a river down in Tennessee? Is ignorance on the next block? Is it next door? Is it you? Where is ignorance? A lot of the issues that we're talking about tonight stem from people who foment and prey on ignorance. I'm not going to go too far in ideology. I will touch base on one in an Islamic issue and one in a Christian issue. I didn't get very far in my American translation of the Quran past the verses in the cow. And in the cow, what I saw was pacifism. Though they throw rocks at me, I'm going to worship Allah. I'm going to stick to what I'm doing, and I am going to stick to my beliefs despite the fact that I'm persecuted. I saw some parallels. I'm sorry, it's not word verbatim. Don't laugh at me, Jim. Something that come across my mind in fomenting and preying on ignorance, I'm trying to make this quick, guys. In the Christian faith, those who sow strife and discord among brethren are an abomination and are committing an abomination above all sins. One thing that we haven't talked about that I've heard mentioned is that we have a lot of opportunism going on in this war machine, and we all know this is about M-O-N-E-Y. And these warlords that we are supplying today are the demonized people that we're having to go fight tomorrow. And this is about money. We are fomenting and preying on ignorance. Education is our silver bullet. I like what you're thinking. My friend from Iraq, he said, people whose children are dying out in the desert storm should give them a machine gun and $300. Well, guess what? They want what anybody wants. They want to provide for their family. And what I hear in America, where is ignorance? We're all going and going and going and going about all of these little partisan issues while these people rake it in. What goes in my mind, what Mr. Beasley refers to as the hat pegs, are the Star Trek tribbles. You get 3 people at a table. They're just chirping along like a bunch of damn tribbles about all of their little partisan issues, but you've got to look at the facts. Education is our silver bullet. Where is the money going? Who is benefiting from war? Do you benefit from war? I don't benefit from war. Do you think their children benefit from war? No. My friend in Iran, her family was put in a prison camp because her father worked in education. These people that benefit and are opportunistic and gain from war and these war machines foment and prey on ignorance. Education is our silver bullet. And before we get too distracted into these diversionary issues, stop and think, who benefits from this? Thank you, Susan. I'm done. I'm going to close. Thank you very much.
I just have a thought. Our memories are sometimes short. And I remember on 9/11, they told us 19 hijackers were out drinking with prostitutes in Miami the night before, and then they're on planes early in the morning, crashing 2 planes into the Twin Towers. Building 7, look it up yourself, 50-story building, found its footprint from a couple of fires. Building 6 had a 40-foot crater in the bottom of it and a shell left. Building 5, just a shell. The Pentagon had a 757, they said, fly into the side of it. 20-foot hole. Common sense. Question this stuff. We're going after all these countries on something that I believe was a lie.
I won't need 5 minutes. When you mention jihad, you're not the first person who mentioned that jihad has to do with an internal struggle, defeating yourself. Do I have that right? Okay. You're not the first person who's told me that, and a light bulb went off in connection with 2 things. One was Star Wars, and the other was your mention about correcting the Quran and then letting people read it and see what's really there. The connection with Star Wars is this, is there's light and there's darkness, and everybody's got to make a choice. And I think leadership, not just in the Muslim world, but also even in our own history, in Western history, is that people do make bad choices, and they're very smart, and they mislead people, okay? And then they found movements, and they did think that the Third Reich was gonna last 1,000 years, didn't they? So, the problem is, I think, the objection, and I didn't object very much to what you said, but the idea between taking the Quran and then correcting it, and then presenting it to people, say, well, this is what it really says. And that they will immediately say, oh, we were so wrong. I don't think so. I think the problem that you have is a problem that 250 Protestant denominations in the United States have. For every denomination, there's an interpretation of the Bible. So you got the next level, which is the interpretation. And now, what it comes down to is, who are you going to believe? So I hate to be skeptical, but that's my nature. And my nature is, it's going to be a lot more difficult than just presenting to them the clean, edited, corrected copy, because the issue is going to be is, whose interpretation are we talking about? That's all I got.
That was well said, Jim. I have to agree with you on that. Some of what I'm going to say is somewhat of a takeoff on that. Get off my paperwork here. Thank you for being here, listening to me. I believe that Mike is right in saying that we cannot defeat or change a religion. These are deep-seated core beliefs that are an integral part of a person's life and identity, and fighting a religion is just an exercise in futility. But just as much is true when we are trying to defeat an ISIS leader, Baghdadi. He will not give up his false claims about his religion. Whatever his radical ideas are and wherever they came from, he will not abandon them. You can threaten him, you can put him on trial. These are core beliefs he will not change. ISIS and Baghdadi must be defeated by whatever means necessary. Nothing will turn away from his war against his enemies as he sees them, except one thing, that is overwhelming force. A tyrant as delusional as he is, that overwhelming force is the only thing he will understand. Another subject. Recently, I was asked about Donald Trump. Donald Trump got lots of attention when he suggested we hold back on Muslim immigration until we know for sure who's coming in. Even the FBI director, that's James Comey, said that there is no way we can vet the Syrians who are coming here. He said, we've got some history with Iraq. We were there for something like 10 years, but not Syria. Did you know, hear me, did you know that we stopped immigration from 1924 to 1965? Little or no immigration. Under Calvin Coolidge, it happened after World War I to let those most recent immigrants assimilate into the American life and culture, history and traditions. 1924 to 1965. Would it not be common sense to delay Syrian immigration until we can know who for sure is coming into our country? Is there a hurry? Today's paper, assaults in Europe are adding fuel to the immigrant debate. It says 21 asylum seekers from the Middle East and North Africa are suspects in the New Year's Eve rampage of sexual assaults and thefts. It's even extended to violence and criminality in Helsinki, Finland, and in Sweden, Hamburg, Germany, and Stuttgart. Another point, no single city has been hit as hard as Cologne. 170, mostly women, were assaulted. They've been complaining over all these men from Middle Eastern countries who have assaulted them. Europe does not know who they are letting in, and it is out of control, and many Europeans are scared to death, and they know it. 2 migrants that recently came in from Greece with Greece passports stamped were involved in the Paris attack where 130 people were killed. Europe is beginning to regret their immigration policy. There is nothing wrong about holding back on these Syrian migrations until we thoroughly vet these people and know who we are letting into our country. Our lives and our safety depend on it. Thank you, thank you.
God bless the internet. Everybody has different facts. Everybody knows so much. Somebody's got to be wrong. I like the religions. It's a good place to start. They've been around before the internet. The religions are all wrong, except for one, maybe. Dr. Ghouse, you gave me a memory from my lifetime. A few years ago, I went to a church. You were talking, and I'm not religious, but I thought this was a desecration. I'm watching all this stuff in this church about peace and everything, and in comes the Marine Guard. And they start doing this thing and playing, bam, ba, da, ba, da, and it was like a real warmonger deal in a church. So what's the point of that? To me, that was a jarring memory. It was the juxtaposition of the church and the military right there. But the point is this: the one little thing I have to offer is same old deal, the left-right paradigm. Don't be a sucker for it.
Yes.
Okay, what's going on here? Something much bigger. In Europe right now, as Ray pointed out, a lot of people are regretting what's going on, and they're following their leaders, their government, and it's not just one side. Like, these women are getting raped. There's places where Sharia law is being in effect, and there's even places in America, there's towns that are like, there's a place called Islam Heaven or something. Anyway, there's several places where the police won't go. It's Sharia law. It's in America. Anyway, what I want to say is in Europe it's further along. There are a lot of officials who because it's the government's stance, make it against the law to say anything against Islam. If a criminal is caught and he's Islamic, they won't let the police put in the newspaper it was an Islamic. Now, how does this all fit in? Well, I'm saying there's a bigger story. As you said, this interpretation thing with the Quran is that's one level. It doesn't really seem like it's going to really work. I'm not against Islam. I want to give everybody a fair shake, but I see 1984, everything upside down. The people who divide us up constantly are the left. All I got to hear about is my race, my sexual orientation, whether I'm a woman. I mean, I go into the dentist's office. What is my race? What is my age? We're being divided left and right. So I don't hear like, let's look at this person. Oh, is he an artist? No, that doesn't matter. Is he honest? That doesn't matter. Oh, is he white? Oh, is he a man? How old is he? So there's other things going on. There's a deeper level here, and it's very scary to know the power these people have. In Europe is the furthest along. It's the best example where the people are not allowed to even have pride in their own families, their own culture. Europe, yes. There's a self-hate thing we're being played. Because we're nice people here and because we got it relatively soft, guilt is a nice button for them to push. Guilt is a good thing amongst people who share your values. The people who don't share your values, guilt is going to be used against you. You see it in the Black Lives Matter, you see it with the Muslims, you see it with everywhere. Now, as far as slavery, this is kind of going off, I don't know if you can see the thread here. The worst slavery is the Muslims. The ISIS is even trying to make slavery come back. So, there's also this history of the Crusades. Okay, Muhammad took over the world very quickly, bigger than the Roman Empire, between 700 and 1100. Now, where did he go? He went into Bulgaria. He was at the gates of Vienna. He took over Spain. So the Crusades, thank you. Very, very helpful, thank you. Beautiful. Okay, so the Crusades, you know, resonates with our guilt. The conquest of this continent resonates with our guilt. However, guilt is a negative emotion. And what I call a negative emotion is something that if you harbor a negative emotion, only bad comes from it. Guilt is something you act on. Guilt is something you don't share with people that hate you. So anyway, it's a bigger issue. There's people that want to bring down things to a really bad level. We have the most to lose in America, and we're playing at the junior level. When you see officials saying we have to break our own laws, we have to break down the Constitution, we have to accept Muslims, we have to lie, we have to say these people, they weren't any particular race, and then just the opposite. Everything's divided by race all the time. God bless the internet.
I just want to apologize for the Cross for the Nations. I actually graduated from there, and Cross for the Nations. And I remember when I first went there, we had one of those outreaches like that was really hateful, and it freaked me out. I'm a Christian, but I don't push my views on anyone. I just like to talk to people and see where they're at and what their story is. So I do apologize. I apologize for Christians. And someone else mentioned about Muslims not speaking out against ISIS. That's maybe the research wasn't done on that, but there actually is a pretty big movement where Muslims are speaking out against ISIS. It's called Not in My Name. It's a hashtag that's been going all throughout social media. You can Google it. So there is a bit of movement there. In my mind, I'm with some others that came up here. To me, religion causes war. Spirituality enlightens. If you look across the board, all religions have one core value, and that's to treat others as you treat yourself. It's pretty simple, right? I also think that ISIS has nothing to do with religion. I think it's just a band of psychopaths who have given themselves a license to kill and bring destruction under the guise of religion. It's a lie. They lied to themselves. So take that for what it's worth. Don't blame Muslims for these psychopaths. Don't blame Christians for any group. All this stuff's meant to be divisive, to take your attention away from the real issues, like the TPP and drone strikes, and that's other things you got to worry about too. You know, I think our soldiers. I'm speaking with a lot of military folks, and I asked them, you know, after I think we've gotten comfortable with each other, you know, do you think your patriotism is being used against you to someone else's advantage? And more times than not, they say yes. They don't know what they're fighting for, and that's disheartening, because you know, war brings money. It's profitable. So when you create this war on terror, like war on drugs, that means it's going to last forever, and nothing gets solved. Thanks.
Well, you took my speech.
Sorry.
I would like to thank you for making your presentation about, you know, I charge your statements. And many of them are true, but it's a reciprocal thing. As you indicate, religion per se doesn't cause this. Evil people do. And that's what caused the problem. I don't think the solution is quite that simple, because as one gentleman said, we gotta find them and kill them. That won't really solve the war. That won't solve the issue with the ISIS and the other people, because the more you kill, that's an honor for them to die for their cause. We need to think about what really caused it. What does this poverty have anything to do with it? I think it does. I think when people give up, then they do crazy things. I don't know that education will solve all of our problems, but education with common sense probably will solve most of our problems. But I think we got to look at this thing balanced. We can point the finger, as we often do. We always have to find someone to make the scapegoat. We can do that as much as we want to, but that's not going to solve the problem. We, the people, got to start thinking about what's best for all of us. What's best for all of us, and how do we work to ensure that everybody is treated the same, regardless of who they are? And we got to be thinking about those people in countries where they've been poor all their lives, generation after generation of poverty. And that creates all kinds of issues with people. And we don't, as long as that exists, then we're going to have these kinds of problems. And we have made mistakes in foreign policy. When in Afghanistan, when Russia was there, we supported the people now that we're fighting. And we've done that in a number of cases. We need to think about it. And like many people indicate, it's money. Eisenhower was a very good general in my respect, in my observation. And he made a very worthwhile statement in his last speech as president. Beware of the military-industrial complex. And we've seen it forgotten that, and we say spend more money for defense, in which the kind of wars we're fighting now, we can't use the nuclear war bomb. We don't know what it will do to us. We have a lot of questions we need to deal with, a lot of issues we need to deal with, but we got to look at it from an objective standpoint and not try to make a scapegoat, because like a gentleman told me back, in any demographic group we have is, you know, the equal number of craziness and the equal number of smart people and equal number of moderate people. My concern is where are the moderates? I don't hear them saying anything. And that's who need to speak up if we're going to find real solutions. Because the right to the left, they're not going to solve a problem. Thank you.
I think I'm the last one standing. I don't see anybody else that wants to be up here. That's good. We're running out of time anyway. I want to thank our speaker for being here tonight. I think he did a terrific job. I guess the one question I'll have that he can answer is that the new thing that's happened now is that in Syria they have killed a Shia person, high in religion, Saudi Arabia, and it seems to have incensed everybody on both sides, and that means that rationality seems to have gone out the window when it comes to getting anything done versus ISIS, and that is one of the things we face today, something you might want to address. And on the question of what's wrong with the world, you know, I think that our big problem since the Industrial Revolution, machines have been replacing people. Machines don't pay taxes. That's part of the problem. We have this has been going on, and we face it today. Our corporations have gone overseas to other countries where labor costs are cheaper. The end result is we lose the jobs here. They're somewhere else. Our society is suffering, and we're almost a second world country in the sense that Britain went downhill. We're in the same boat. You know, our economy may collapse on us before we know it, because our balance of payments is unbelievable. We owe so much money to everybody else. It's obscene. And this is one of the things we have the problem. The corporations are doing very well, and everybody else is doing very poorly. That's what's happened in our country, and we have to address that. And everybody is attacking everybody else, and this is part of the problem. So we have to get down to basics. And to me, basics are we need to address the Congress, for example, is owned and operated by the corporations. And as a result, you can't get them to do anything, because that's against the corporations. So what will Congress vote for? They'll vote, about the only thing they might vote, I think they might vote for would be to have free elections. And that they would, there's no challenger, there's no challenger that's beaten incumbents since before the year 2000, because challengers haven't got a dime, nothing. And the reason they get nothing is they can't win, they think. So nobody gives them anything, including the unions or anybody else. And so they've lost. So if you get them to do that, then they might represent the people instead of representing the corporations buying their vote in Washington. If that were the case, then you could put tariffs on corporations, and then you could create jobs in this country, and you could straighten your economy out a little bit, and you might even shorten the workday and put everybody back to work. You have 25 million people paying taxes instead of draining taxes. We'd have a better society, and the rest of the world could follow. That's all I have to say. You're up.
Thanks to everyone. It is enlightening. It is good to hear different points of view. That means there is more work for all of us to do. And just a few points in a few minutes. The Armenian genocide, you brought that up. If you look at the website, holocaustandgenocides.com, we've been commemorating Holocaust and genocides each year. We talk about several genocides. We did cover the Armenian genocide, and we have to acknowledge the brutal inhumanity in us, and we have done that. And again, I have my own opinion. If without religion, the problems would have been far greater. Religion has curbed a lot of problems. Without it, there would have been much greater anarchy. That's just my opinion. Thank you. And there is a lot of information. You mentioned about the condemnation. 100 Muslim scholars, including me, in the United States have signed declaration condemning ISIS. And every Muslim country, including there are about 67,000 clerics in India and all around the world, have condemned ISIS and declared them to be non-Muslim. Just Google it, please. And you said you didn't see it. It is there on the Google. If you don't find it, send me an email. I'll send you all the links to last you for a full month to read.
Send all the names. Yeah, I want to see them on CBS News, NBC, and ABC screaming and decrying.
And we did. And for example, we did. We held on November 24th, the first time in the United States, we held a rally on Lincoln Memorial, on the steps of Lincoln Memorial, against ISIS and against terrorism. All the media covered, Fox News covered as well, and they supported the event. Then again on December 26th, for the first time in history, we celebrated, December 24th was Prophet Muhammad's birthday, 25th was Jesus. We celebrated together on the steps of Lincoln Memorial. By the way, we had a Jewish man come and sing Christmas carols, a Muslim girl sing Christmas carols. We had people from different faiths sing Christmas carols and songs about Prophet Muhammad. We, as Muslims and Christians that form about 52% of the world population, we have an obligation, responsibility to create a better world for every human out there. And we are all working on it. It will take time. Education helps. And the most important thing is events like this. I really appreciate this, Tom. The things I'm learning from you for new, some of the two things, and I'm sure you learned something from me. When we sit down face to face and put everything on the table, we demystify some of the myths. Some of the myths will linger, but if the more we meet, the more we talk issues face to face, boldly like we do, a lot of myths will disappear. We pile up myths about each other rather than know the truth about each other. Once we start changing our own attitudes, things will get better. But evil has been there from the very beginning. For the biblical terms, Adam had, two sons. It's evil has always been there, will always be there. All we have to do is mitigate it and make it a little lesser so all of us can live in peace. And I wrote quite a lot of items, but due to the time, I will try to respond to them in the blog. I thought I was going to write a blog quickly, but with this many, it will take me about 3 to 4 days to address most of the questions. And thank you very much. I appreciate you all.
Well, this is, I want to thank everybody for being here. This is one of our best turnouts, I think, and I hope you all had a good time. We're going to, this place closes at 10:30, so we can stick around if we want. Not necessarily in this room, maybe next door, whatever, carry on the conversation. Yeah, right, we got to get everything out of this room, so go in the other room, and thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a great